in New Zealand, we've always had a close connection, both in a social and economic sense, with animals. Our economic success is based on animal-derived products, but we're also proud of our ethical approach to the welfare of animals. We care about what happens to them, and we get upset when they're mistreated, whether on farms or in homes. So the Labor and Progressive parties welcome this bill today because it toughens up our ability to protect our animals and makes offenders pay for any mistreatment. But I'm not naive about the issues that it addresses. Those whose incomes depend on animals can't afford to be overly sentimental. They and we grow animals to provide food, both for New Zealanders domestically and for the rest of the world. Starting out in the workforce in the 50s and 60s, I spent enough time in the freezing works of New Zealand to see a few things that would make me cringe even today. Made me cringe then, I might say. But anyone working with animals or simply owning an animal can and should commit to acting humanely. And most people do. I have to repeat that, most people do, because in many ways the publicity given to ill treatment would indicate to some people that there is mass mistreatment of animals in New Zealand, and I do not believe there's any evidence to support that view. This bill doesn't target the overwhelming majority of farmers, the producers and pet owners who work within animal welfare guidelines. It targets a small minority who willfully, recklessly or because of psychological impairment mistreat animals. It's not hard to think of recent examples. The Minister mentioned a few, and we see on our TV screens starving and neglected animals, which focuses everyone's mind. New Zealand's niche in the world is that we are a pure, clean and environmentally friendly society. In our markets, consumers are becoming more and more demanding about quality production. They are asking searching questions, as they should, about issues like environmental responsibility, and they're asking about animal health and welfare and the quality standards of our production processes. The future for New Zealand's primary exports will be in having the best answers to those questions that we can possibly have. There is no future in trying to compete on price alone against emerging low-cost producers. We have to compete by guaranteeing the quality and the value of our food production as a whole. If we don't meet the expectations of our customers, then we face potentially very damaging risks to our export base. This bill will make the Animal Welfare Act work better. Increasing the penalty from 3 to 5 years shows that we take cruelty to animals seriously. Introducing a new offence of reckless ill-treatment of animals alongside the existing willful ill-treatment will help us capture those who might otherwise not have reached the threshold for willful ill-treatment. But let's be realistic. There's no point in increasing the penalty if you don't have people on the streets and in the fields to investigate the crime. The government has already cut frontline staff in areas like biosecurity. When the harder beetle was found in Auckland recently, it wasn't found by a biosecurity staffer. It was found by a man walking his dog in an Auckland park. So how does this government intend to police animal welfare? MAF have exactly 5 full-time staff to do animal investigations, plus 7 contractors. It was thus so when I was Minister of Agriculture, and I moved in the budget, but I never got around to being able to produce to have some more of them. The SPCA have about 100 staff who investigate animal welfare issues, on whom the government is heavily dependent to monitor breaches of the Animal Welfare Act, and they, of course, are the main volunteers, and the government pays nothing apart from some cost of training to their costs. In 2008, as Minister of Agriculture, through MAF, I gave the SPCA a $300,000 one-off grant, but I recognise it was nowhere near enough, nor has it been consistently funded. When I was Minister, we set up the Fast Forward Fund, which was a partnership between the private sector and the government to fund research and development. We had over $700 million in the MAF accounts, ready to fund research into areas like this, not solely of course, but it would have been one. For example, how do you measure animal welfare? It's not always easy. Measuring how animals feel at any particular moment about their environment is awkward at the very least. In 2006, the chairman of the UK Farm Animal Welfare Council, Professor Christopher Waithes, came to New Zealand and asked us, how do we know whether animal welfare standards are being observed? When I was Minister, I used to get a huge volume of letters into my office about animal welfare issues, and I know the current Minister will have the same experience. It was clear to me then, and it still is today, that we have to be leaders in New Zealand, not only in animal welfare, but in measuring the standards of animal welfare. We have to be leaders in the right techniques, as well as in the substantive results of our measuring. The Fast Forward Fund could have helped to deepen our research into animal welfare and therefore improve the market position of our animal-based industries. I would like to know how the current government is going to find the right tools to measure animal welfare now. It got rid of Fast Forward and replaced it with the Primary Growth Partnership, and I hope the Primary Growth Partnership addresses this issue. But to date, the Primary Growth Partnership has funded precisely no research projects, none. And there's only $25 million in the kitty this year to even start. So I support the bill because it's ethically the right thing to do, both for this Parliament and for the industry. But I question how the government intends to investigate the inevitable increase in complaints, because if you have a higher standard, you are going to have people requiring you to meet it. And I haven't seen anything yet that indicates that the government has addressed that. How is it going to equip vets, MAF staff or the SPCA investigators to know when an animal is being mistreated, or if it's reported as being mistreated, how is the investigation going to take place and by whom? And this has been a problem we have faced for a very, very long time, and all of us have to recognise the minimal amount of resource that's put into animal welfare issues, and it simply is unacceptable and it's not good enough, and I don't think anyone in this Parliament would want to defend it. So without that support, I fear this bill may end up as more of a window dressing bill, because it suggests that we are tougher on animal welfare issues without actually providing the substance that a high quality animal welfare system in New Zealand will require. And in supporting this through to the Select Committee, I certainly give notice to the government that we'll be asking some questions along those lines in the Select Committee, and I hope that the government can give some positive answers.
Speaker.